Greetings, friends and followers. This is Nurses Talking, and I am Dale Barzi. As always, if you like what you see and hear, subscribe, leave us a comment, let us know what you think. Here on Nurses Talking, we speak to nurses anywhere in the world and at any stage in their nursing journey. And today, I am very pleased to have as a guest Dr. Sylvia Abbeyquaye. She says she has over 20 years' experience in long term care, and she's a nurse leader, she's an educator, she's a serial healthcare entrepreneur. She's the CEO and founder of My Nurse Pal Inc., and she is also the founder of NSD Expert Education and Consulting LLC. So, welcome, welcome, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure.
My absolute pleasure to have you. But I always want to know, first of all, why people are nurses. So, what brought you to nursing?
Nursing was a second career for me, believe it or not. I started off as a biochemist when
Yeah.
I was in Ghana, where I had my original first degree. And when I immigrated into the United States, I came in to do my master's in public administration. But then during that period, I worked as a CNA in the nights. And that's where my love for nursing kind of sparked off. And I wasn't surprised because I grew up around my mom, who is a nurse, and I had seen her do in Africa, people come to the home for their injections. So I wasn't strange to nursing. But when I looked at my residents, I struck a lot of intimate relationships with them during my 2 years as CNA in the initial stages. I knew I wanted to go that route. So here I am, 20 some years later. Yeah.
So, well, you did a lot here. So, first of all, you were a biochemist. True, you grew up with a mom who was a nurse, but you moved countries and you moved careers. You had a totally different focus. So, what were the challenges for you?
Well, when you come from a different country with a different type of degree, it's difficult to assimilate, right? Or to even get your degrees recognized and to get
Yes.
into the system and start run away working, right? So I was lucky. I just had left school like a year, had done been a teaching assistant for a year, just had done an internship with a medical hospital to look at clinical biochemistry. That was my area I was going with there. So it was still in
Yeah.
the clinical field, right? And so coming here was my husband was here. That's why I came. He was doing
Uh-huh.
his PhD. Yeah, he was a student too. And so I came to
Mm.
reunite. But let me say it was difficult. And so again, you had to put on a different role, be a CNA, go start
Hmm.
from the bottom of the chain, right?
Yes.
Just to find your feet back up. So I have really gone through all the ranks, if you would say. And so it gives me a broader perspective on
Yes.
what nursing is and what it should be, right? So yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And it also gives you as a nurse who's worked in different countries myself, what I understand is that it gives you a different perspective culturally. Once you became a nurse, did you always work in long-term care?
No, for the most part. So I started
Mhm.
off in rehab nursing. So I worked, it's probably, I would say, post-acute care. So I worked in a more of an acute rehabilitation center
Mm-hmm.
where I was mostly on the traumatic brain injury, spinal
Mm.
cord injury unit. So that is my forte. Like that is where I started off. And so
Mm-hmm.
rehab nursing has been my thing. And so transitioning into skilled nursing was not a difficult transition at all.
Yeah.
Um, I was actually coached by a director of nursing, Brenda Sanchez, and she at the time wanted an assistant director of nursing in a skilled facility and thought my skills would be transferable there. And so she gave me that perspective, right? She gave me that perspective and introduced me to the long-term care field. And I happened to be in management, which was very early on in my career, which was like 3 years into my career. But then I kind of evolved with that role. And eventually I said, you know what, the commute was too much. And I ended up being like a nurse on the unit.
Mm-hmm.
And I think over the years, I learned a thing or two with long-term care, and my love for it kind of grew, you know.
Yeah.
But as we get into the interview deeper, I will share a few things because even when I was doing that role as a floor nurse, as a supervisor eventually, and also as a unit manager, I did not fully grasp long-term care. I thought I did until I rose to become a director of nursing when the whole system kind of opened up right in front of me. It was just an eye-opener. Looking at
Yeah.
all the regulations and how they connected to the daily work of the nurse, I realized that, boy, there was a gap. Because
Yeah.
I don't think I'm dumb, I think I'm smart. But not knowing after having worked 10 years, then there was something definitely wrong with the system. And
Mm-hmm.
that's what kind of struck my inner core to be so passionate about long-term care workforce development because I felt that there was a lot that was hidden from me that I wish I had known, which would have made me, I was a good nurse, but would have made me even better and more conscientious with my practice. And I was very empowered with the role I had with the DON because I saw a lot and learned a lot, right? And I don't know why I should wait till I become a DON to know some of the things that I knew, right? So yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And so this is what propelled you, I'm assuming, to create, first of all, to create what was the app, My Nurse Pal.
Okay, so my before my nails pal before my nails pal came, it was NSD Education and Consultancy
Uh-huh.
Services. Okay, and I really want to because that is part of my story, and I
Mm-hmm.
want to give a little gist of it. So I told you that when I became a DON in a job, 3 days into my role, an unfortunate incident happened. Right now, it was a sentinel event. Resident hits another resident. It became a report up with the person. Then the person unfortunately passed away and it became a crime scene. It was a big
Sure.
deal. At the time, I could have just walked off because I had just been in the job for 3 days, but I
Yeah,
took it on head on. And through the process, I grew overnight.
yeah.
I came to understand the regulations and all that. And I also saw the gaps, right? Because in this case, a couple of my nurses were being questioned by the board, right?
Uh-huh.
And so when I looked at the painful process they had to go through defending their licenses and looking at it from a systemic perspective, I realized that it wasn't all their fault. We had to take some of the blame as an institution,
That's mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And therefore, I told myself that it wasn't going to be on my watch. I was going to do something. So I set up to train all the rest of the staff and came up with a curriculum that was effective. And let me just tell you, this was a building that was failing when I walked in. It had almost like 46 tags to begin with.
Wow.
And
Mm-hmm.
within 6 months, we had turned around the building. And I did nothing. All I did was education.
Educate. Mm-hmm.
Go on my weekends, bringing my box sojo and donuts, train and train and train. So that curriculum became a book that I wrote. So that was the first change I did to create a blueprint that those who wanted to know how to really impact their staff could definitely go to that navigating long-term care. Then out of that was my consulting business and pretty much just go into facilities and train them based off of the curriculum that I had desperately put together, right? And so everything evolved. And then my next part was the last thing that I tried to do to provide more tools, right? To make the nurses work very, very easy. So I started off. The first attempt at an app I did was called the Nurse LTC. It didn't do too good because the people who did it for me just could not get my vision as I
Mm.
wanted. And then I have this beautiful team now that we have elevated my nurse pal. And actually, I'm very excited about it. It's coming up May 19th, and everyone should go, every nurse should go download it. It has AI features. Let me just, I can go on and on on about it, but I can. So this is an app that is going to reshape nursing practice and it's inbuilt with a lot of supports, which is critical for the new nurse, for the seasoned nurse. For the new nurse, it has a mentorship community in there. It has resources. It has an AI nurse coach. It has self-care features. You have an AI reflective journal and self-care with an AI feature. You can manage your task. You can set your times to your task. You can prioritize your task. You can streamline your shift reporting. You just talk your shift reports. It generates your next steps. It creates a to-do list based on the clinical judgment model. And it's exciting, right? And also, you have your schedule, your calendar, and you can also upload all your cheat sheets. So if you have anything that you used in school that really benefited you, you can upload it right into there. You can always reference it yourself. It is beautiful. So I'm very excited. Can't you
I
tell? I'm
can
very
tell.
excited. And it comes out May 19th. And then we also have, with it, we have developed another system for home care to bring hospital level of care to the homes. It's amazing. And so we have a business enterprise system, and we also have a mobile application, which is launching one after the other in the
Yeah,
next month.
yeah, yeah. Oh, that I am excited on your behalf.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Yeah, so that is my love for long-term care. And I'm going to keep working at it, changing the narrative,
Hmm.
seeing that long-term care should be encouraged and should be, even in Africa, for example, it's up and coming. We
Hmm.
never used to have long-term care, and we still don't. Like we now have
Hmm.
a few springing up here and there because I don't know why we never did because of our culture. We used to take care of
Yeah.
our elderly at home.
Hmm.
But now, as we're trying to become more westernized, we are realizing that most of our parents, for example, I'm here, I have parents home. Who takes care of them? It's
Hmm.
not like it used to be where I was home and I could take care of my father or
Hmm.
whatever. We need to reimagine.
Yeah.
Yes. And the beauty is that we have a system here already. I've seen what works and what doesn't work, right? So I am reimagining how long-term care should be, and I'm taking it also back home. So it's a global application, which is
Yes.
going to create a platform for Africa also. So I'm very excited about it.
Awesome. 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 I love it. I love it. I love it. But while you are still here,
Mhm.
but wait, first of all, what would you say then? In those 2 decades that you have worked, what would you say is the biggest lesson that you've learned?
So the biggest lesson I've learned is that you have to treat human beings as they are. It doesn't matter where you find yourself, be it in leadership. Your team is your identity, I think. If my team is good, I am good, right? So I invest in my team, be it my time, my resources, my support. It's always been the foundation of my life. I believe in community and support. That's my big thing. And throughout, I've realized that as a leader, when you provide your team with support, they thrive, right? If you provide them as an
Yes.
environment to build community, have that sense of belonging, they thrive. And so for me, all the lessons I've learned, I was one person. You know why I'm so crazy about staff retention? As an immigrant, although I've been in nursing for so long, for the first, I think, maybe 6 years of my career, I was jumping every 2 years, I was leaving a place. I just could not find home. And it's
Mm-hmm.
because I was looking for something more. It
Mm-hmm.
wasn't about the paycheck, it was about the work environment. I
Yeah.
wanted to feel that I belonged, and I wasn't getting it.
Mhm.
And so for me, the job that I stayed on for years, when I look back, that job was that job that allowed me autonomy, that respected and valued me, and my decisions were respected,
Mhm.
right? And I felt like I was part of the decision making. Those are the only jobs that I thrived. And when I speak to others, they say the same. So I am very convinced that in the core, that is where retention starts. It starts from day one when you are hired. That welcoming environment, that um, community building, that relationship building, that
Mm-hmm.
trust
Mm-hmm.
is
Mm-hmm.
built from day one. So I had the whole theory on it when I was doing my PhD, and I wrote a whole book on it. How do you transition somebody successfully into a new job, a new environment? It could be a new school, whatever. There should be some foundational things that should exist, right?
Yes.
And relationship
Yes.
building and trust is number one, right? Yeah.
And you are so correct because really, any community, any organization, anything like that is really only as strong as its weakest link. And so, as long as you have if your weak link is very weak, your community, your organization is not strong.
Yes.
It's not strong. I get that. I get that. So here's one of the things we're talking about a lot. Bullying.
Oh, yeah.
And I bring up bullying because I think I want to ask you, how do you think we can shift this thing where we have this reputation of bullying each other?
So when you are stressed, one, you bully. And you bully sometimes inherently without knowing that you are bullying. And I don't think that there are a few people who are really bullies and go out and say they want to bully, but I really don't think that everybody goes out thinking that they are bullies.
Yeah.
And the situation, the system drives you to be a bully.
Mm-hmm.
Why
Mm-hmm.
do I say that? So if you are working in long-term care, for example, in the US, where you have such a heavy workload, and you have such boundaries of time. For example, it's a law. You have to
Yeah.
do an hour before, an hour after, you must give your meds.
Yeah.
There's no negotiation, otherwise it becomes a med error.
Yeah.
You know, and then you work in a place where residents have dementia, they'll stop you, they interrupt you, and there's no receptionist. So you are also
Mm-hmm.
taking the calls, you are
Mm-hmm.
doing everything. You know what? It gets to your head at some point.
Yeah.
And therefore, when I walk to you and ask a very, very benign question, you snap at me because you are dealing with your own demons of stress. And so once you start that initiative and human emotions, when you yell back at me, I will yell back at you. And it creates that culture of incivility and bullying. So
Yeah.
to answer your question, if we focus on my latest blogs, I've been talking about stress. If we can reduce the work stress, checking in, providing emotional support. And again, that becomes my next part. I thought of all of this. And so in that application, you have a friend. You have a friend that you can go in, quote unquote, a friend that you can actually be able to pour your heart out.
Mm.
Sometimes it's an exit to just vent,
Yeah.
calms you down so that you can be a better person, so that you can have patience for that new grad that is asking so many questions. You can hold their hand. And sometimes too, we are not, and one of the things that we are not trained to mentor,
Mm-hmm.
we're not trained to precept. They
Yeah.
assume that you have the experience and you should be able to train. But let's just say that, have you tried training your child how to drive?
Exactly.
Exactly. It's not everybody that is cut off to be a teacher or a mentor,
Exactly.
or a preceptor, but our system fails to recognize that. And so for me, I'm thinking of two things. How am I juggling my work and also training at the same time? And I come off as very nasty,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
right? So we need a lot of education. We need a
Yeah.
lot of training. And again, that comes back to creating that environment where we can grow, we can
Yeah.
nurture the nurses, and become kumbaya if need be. And we have to call out arch bullies. There should be a
Yeah.
zero tolerant policy that protects us at the workplace, that the institution actually embraces, right?
Yeah.
Because the same way we have zero tolerance policies for patient abuse, we should have it for staff too.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And once you start to do that, the staff also build confidence in you as an organization that, oh my God, you have my back.
Mm-hmm.
They will give you their all and they will stay
Yeah.
on the job, right?
Yeah.
So bullying is a big problem that we shouldn't be proud of. And I'm glad that now we talk about it freely.
Yeah.
We acknowledge that it exists, which is a big step, which didn't happen 20 years ago. You could
I
never
know.
say that you were being bullied, but now
Mm-hmm.
it's a thing. right? And so I think we've made strides in that, but we can actually do more. And we should call out when there's bullying. We should call it out. Yes.
Yeah, yeah, we really should. We really should. And there is a movement afoot called Nurses Feed Their Young.
Young, yeah.
And I love it. I love it. I talk about it all the time.
Yes, nurses feed their young. And so I know Teresa Sanderson is the head of that movement.
Yeah,
It's a wonderful, wonderful movement, and we all have to embrace it because when we create a very safe work environment, not only do we thrive, but the residents and the patients benefit.
everyone benefits. Everyone
Everybody.
benefits.
Yeah.
Everyone. Mhm.
Yeah.
What advice do you think you will give to someone who wants to be a nurse?
Come on, long-term care. We want long-term care nurses. We want to bring the best. We want to bring in more nurses who love to work with long-term care. And we want to also change the narrative of what long-term care is. And
Mm-hmm.
so my advice is that long-term care nursing is not what you've heard it to be. It's a fulfilling career. You can grow, flourish. You can be an entrepreneur just like I am. I've been nothing but a long-term care nurse, and I'm very proud of that.
Mm-hmm.
And there's so much to learn and there's so much to input. And it's a different type of nursing, but it's very, very gratifying. It is. It is
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah.
yeah. Within the profession, actually, I don't think that long-term care nurses, as you just intimated, are given the kind of respect and acknowledgement that they actually deserve. Long-term care nurses have opportunities that very many acute care nurses don't have.
Yes.
Um, Opportunities to interact better,
Mhm.
opportunities to interact not just with patients and families, but with government agencies, in a wider sense and stuff like that. And we don't see it and recognize it. What we see is that the profession in general tries to kind of marginalize long-term care staff, which is not what the way it ought to be because they do a lot.
Yeah, we do a lot. And in
Do a
the
lot.
past, when like 20 past years or probably more ago, when it was started, it was supposed to be custodial care, just a
Custodial. Mhm.
mama who was home, nobody to take care. So come to the nursing home and have somebody to take care of you. Now it's changed. It's flipped on
Mhm.
its head.
Yeah.
Now you walk into a long-term care skill facility and you think you're on a med surg floor.
Yeah.
Nothing, the skill set. So that was one of the big excuses that people would, oh, I'll lose my skills. You see, you could hear that a lot. I'll lose my skills. Boy, I have word for you. You will not lose your skill. Rather, you're going to gain your skills. You're going
You
to
will
gain.
gain.
Because now in hospital, it's quick and out. This is where we do nursing.
Yeah.
This is the environment for nursing, right?
Yeah.
This is the environment we change for Foley catheters. If you have to, you have to. We don't do all IVs. You do all the different types of med routes, rectal, ophthalmic,
Yeah.
everything you learned in school.
Everything.
This
You
is
do
where you do it.
TPNs.
This is what you do. We still do IM injections here, right? We still do. Unfortunately, we still do here. So
Mm.
if you, I remember I took let me just dive in. I took a group of students to a hospital setting. They were yearning deeply to do an IM, and I said I'll try it. There was no opportunity given at that point because everything was IV push, IV med.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like,
Mm-hmm.
I wish you guys would be in a long-term care facility because by now we would have given an IV IM
I
reception or
am.
something, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's some of the, if you really want to be a nurse, let me tell you, that is where to go. Yeah,
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. And it forces you. We talk a lot these days about critical thinking. And I'm not suggesting that nurses in hospitals don't have the opportunity to use that skill or that they don't. But in long-term care, where very often you're it,
yeah.
you've got to use it.
You got to use it. You are it. And after you've been yelled a couple of times, when you've picked up the phone to the MD and he's yelled at you, before you call, you would have thought through this a scenario like 5 times in your head because you don't want to be diminished. And so you are in doing that practice, though it's not the best, but you learn.
You
So
learn.
before I call you, I know what to all my everything, my labs, my everything is to the
Yes.
T. I have
Yes.
it all written and organized so that when I speak, I am speaking to exactly
Yes.
and based on my assessment because they're not here to assess. They are
Right.
relying on your assessment. So again, you have
Exactly.
to be top notch. You have to be able to
Exactly.
listen to all the abnormal sounds, pick them up, you know? So
Yeah.
again, this is a world of this is a trove
Yeah.
of resources that
Yeah.
you and skill that you need
That
to
you
be a
need.
good nurse,
Yes.
right? And
Yes.
so
Yes.
I really, really, really call for all upcoming nurses to consider long-term care as really an option. As really an option, yeah.
All right. I have one last question because you, I see, are a busy person. You're an assistant professor of nursing, you have your app going, you're a long-term care nurse, you're passionate about all of this. What does self-care mean to you?
What does health self-care?
Hmm.
That's a tough question because I have to preach what I have to do what I preach. I'm a very busy woman, but I have time for self-care. I join a choir at my church. I
Mm,
sing every Sunday. I'm there. I'm a very woman of faith. That is where I have most of I'm grounded in my faith as a Catholic, and that keeps me in check. And I do gardening. I am a florist. I am an event decorator.
okay.
Mm-hmm. And so I'm very creative and I do all of that. So yeah, so those are some of the things that I do. And it seems silly. I do read also. I do read a lot of leadership books, and that also keeps me sane and grounded. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And I ask that question because I ask it of everyone, because particularly as women and as nurses, and you as an African woman and me as a Caribbean woman, I know that we come from societies where we kind of tend to put ourselves last.
Ah,
And so with that as our own upbringing, and then we become nurses. Um,
I
so I
know.
kind of like have to remind us. So I ask every single nurse, what do you do
Which
for
is good,
self-care?
which is good for me to sit back. But I would say that this last 2 months has been very hectic on my part. And I don't think I've done enough. I still do my choir on Sundays. I don't miss that. But I find myself a lot busier in this last 2 months just because I'm trying to push up the product. But
Mhm.
overall, I think I balance it a little bit. I balance it well, actually. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Balance is essential. Balance is
Yeah.
essential. We can't afford to lose ourselves in in
No,
in this whole thing.
no, 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 no,
Sylvia,
no.
thank you so, so much for this conversation. I have truly, truly enjoyed it and learned a lot. And I just want everyone to know that in the description box will be a way to contact you.
Okay.
And do you want to mention the name of your book again?
Navigating long-term care, a practical
Navigate,
approach for nurses. Yeah.
right. That and your you have Navigating Long-Term Care Practical Approach for Nurses and your Nurse Pal, my Nurse Pal.
My nurse
Uh,
pal, which is available on all platforms, Apple and Android Google Play Store and Apple Store. It's going to go down May 19th, which is
May
a Monday.
19th.
Yes, May 19th coming up. So everyone should download it. It's free. It's free. It's free. Go download it and utilize it and have a nurse coach in your pocket.
Well, congratulations on
Thank
that.
you so much.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
I wish you much success with that.
Thank you so much. It was my pleasure. Thank you.